A very good morning. We begin with a fresh chapter, Unit 6. This is Jodi's fawn. Fawn is the younger one of a doe. Okay? Now, Jodi is the main character of the story. But to give you a prelude of what's the story all about, firstly I need to ask you a few questions. Like, if you get hurt at home, like you scrape off your knee or you cut your hand or finger, what does mama do? Like, she definitely looks for home remedies first. Something which can be attended to, she will use the home remedies. But if the cut is too deep and too wide or too much in length, then she will rush you to a doctor. Now, certain places, there are certain people who think that doctor is not the only solution for the problem. May the problem be at a very high risk level, still they would not go to the doctor. They would have some kind of a notion in their mind which has been put forth by the prior generation, saying that if you do this, this will happen. This is a story of such a myth. Myth is a false belief. Jodi's father had been bitten by a rattlesnake, which is one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. And if somebody is bitten by a rattlesnake, do you think a home remedy or the remedy which had been suggested to him by his ancestors or forefathers or his tribe or his people would be effective? In the due process, what harm does he do, and how does Jodi rectify his father's error? This is an emotional story about that. Let's proceed. Often, instead of rushing to the doctor to treat a small cut or a burn, we find quick and effective cures using things available at home. Can you think of some such home remedies for a cut on your knee, a burn on your arm, or bee sting? In the story, Jodi's father has been bitten by a rattlesnake. He quickly kills a doe and uses its heart and liver to draw out the poison. Now, the ruthless act which has been done over here is to see to it that he becomes hale and healthy after being bitten by the rattlesnake. He kills a doe and he uses its heart, the animal's heart and liver. He eats it. I don't know what did he do with it, but he uses it to draw out the poison which was injected by the snake. Jodi wonders what will happen to the little fawn left without a mother. Now, the doe had a little one along with it, and little ones in the forest are vulnerable. They can be attacked by any predator. Because of hunger, it might die. It has nobody to take care of. So Jodi was more worried about the little fawn which was left behind when the mother doe was killed. Jodi allowed his thoughts to drift back to the fawn. He could not keep it out of his mind. He had held it in his dreams, in his arms. He slipped from the table and went to his father's bedside. Penny lay at rest. That was his father's name. His eyes were open and clear, but the pupils were dark and dilated. Now, when you were sick or some kind of a poison effect is there on your body, this entire eye, the black part of it gets enlarged. So his father is not in that good a condition, but he has to go and speak to him about something. Jodi said, "How are you feeling, Pa?" "Just fine, son. Old death has gone thieving elsewhere." "But wasn't it a close shave?" So he asked, how are you doing? So he says, I have escaped death. Death couldn't take me. It has gone somewhere else to look for a new bait over there. And he says, it was a close shave. That means it was a close call. I could have died. "I agree," Penny said. "I'm proud of you, boy, the way you kept your head and did what was needed." So the father says he's proud of the son. Son says, "Pa." "Yes, son." "Pa, do you recollect the doe and the fawn?" "I can never forget them. The poor doe saved me, that's certain." So I don't know what has acted upon his ailment over here, the problem over here. His liver and heart, its liver and heart has actually worked for him and is feeling better. So he says, I cannot forget that animal at all. Pa, the fawn may be out there yet. It might be hungry and very scared. I suppose so. Pa, I am a big boy now and don't need to drink milk. Why don't I go and see if I can find the fawn? So he's asking for permission. Can you go in the jungle to find the fawn and bring it back home? And bring it here and raise it. Penny lay quiet, staring at the ceiling. Boy, you've got me hemmed in. So he says, you have put me in a situation where I can't say a yes, I can't say a no. Sending him to the forest is one risk. And he can't say a no because he was the one who killed its mother. So in either ways, he's spellbound over. He's not able to speak over here, what to say, what to react. It won't take much to raise it, Pa. It will soon start eating leaves and acorns. These are the food items which the fawn eats when it grows up. So he says, right now might be we'll have to give him milk and I'll give him my share. That's why he says, I'm grown up enough not to drink milk now. So that's all we'll be needing to raise that fawn. You're smarter than boys of your age. We took its mother and it wasn't to be blamed. Exactly. If you take away somebody's mother, the fawn is nowhere to be blamed. It was not his fault that a rattlesnake came and bit Penny. Surely it seems ungrateful to leave it to starve. Son, I can't say no to you. I never thought I would live to see another day. So then he makes up his mind and he says, go, because I can't say no. It would be inhuman on my part because its mother saved my life, and if you want to save its life, how can I say no to you? Then a buzzard rose in front of him and flapped into the air. Now, buzzard is kind of a predator bird, a scavenger, I would say. So it's like vulture. It eats the flesh of dead animals. He came into the clearing under the oaks. Now this boy has gone to the jungle. Now he can see the buzzards like moving here and there. Clearing is the part where the trees have been cut off by humans for agriculture. Oaks are trees. Buzzards sat in a circle around the carcass of the doe. Carcass is the dead body of the animal. Now, when the doe's heart and liver was pulled off, ripped off, they left the doe's body over there only, carcass over there only. So the buzzards were feeding on it. I said as scavengers, they clean up the forest by eating the dead remains of the animals. So they were circling around, they were hopping around, and they were sitting and eating away the flesh of the doe. They turned their heads on their long scrawny necks and hissed at him. So when they, like these vultures, kind of vultures, when you see, they have kind of a neck, or the skin of the neck is very soggy and it's kind of creepy you look at. So they hissed at him, they made a very strange sound. They thought that he is going to harm them. That's why they were retaliating. He threw his bow at them and they flew into an adjacent tree. So he had one piece of tree trunk. So he threw it at them, a branch, and they flew away. The sand showed large cat prints, but the big cats killed fresh, and they had left the door to the carrion birds. The carrion over here is scavengers again. So they knew that big cats are what? Cat family, what all belongs to the cat family in the animal life. We can say leopards, we can say tigers. Okay, so and even this one, tiger, leopard, lion, all these are cat families. So they knew that if these get involved, they wouldn't eat dead animal. They would kill a fresh and then they would eat it. So then he knew that they had left this particular carcass for the scavengers to eat, and they would be going hunting for an easy prey. And what all he dreaded was they would go for the fawn. He parted the grass at the place where he had seen the fawn. It did not seem possible that it was only yesterday. The fawn was not there. He circled the clearing. And what happens is he goes looking for the same place where the fawn was last seen, but he couldn't see it. So what he does is he circled the clearing. He goes around the clearing. He doesn't pass through it. He goes around the clearing. There was no sound, no sign. The buzzard clacked their wings, impatient to return to the business. So he the birds wanted him to go away so that they could come back and eat the flesh. He returned to the spot where the fawn had emerged and dropped on all fours, studying the sand for the small hoof prints. Now when on sand an animal walks, so you can see the small hoof, the lower part of the foot of the animal can be seen, the prints can be seen on the sand. So he was trying to follow them. The night's rain had washed away all tracks except those of cats and the buzzards. Because it had rained in the night, now the entire sand had become flat, and only the fresh prints of the cats and the buzzards were to be seen over there. There was no sign of the fawn. Movement directly in front of him startled him so that he tumbled backward. The fawn lifted its face to his. So at last he saw some movement, and then in turn he saw the fawn. It turned its head with a wide, wondering motion and shook him through with the stare of its liquid eyes. Now, I can't say that it was crying, but no food, thirsty, doesn't have a clue of what is to be done. The animal is puzzled. It was quivering, it was shaking. It made no effort to rise or run. Didn't have that much strength only in the body to run away here, or thought this particular boy is also a threat to me. Jodi could not trust himself to move. When he saw the fawn, he was taken aback. He was shocked to see that it was in such a bad state. He whispered, "It's me." So he wanted to console the animal. So he said, "It's me, don't worry." The fawn lifted its nose, scenting him. Animals recognize the smell of somebody or something, and it started smelling him to see whether he can catch any kind of known scent. He reached out one hand and laid it on the soft neck. So this you stroke an animal like this. The touch made him delirious. Now, when you have nobody to take care of you, an animal which has been abandoned, even a soft human touch also would be very cozy and comfortable for him. It was very comforting. He moved forward on all fours until he was close behind it. He put his arms around its body. A light convulsion passed over it but did not stir. So he just slowly, Jodi went close to him. Then he put his arms around its body like this. A light convulsion means a shiver, like the animal did not know how to react, whether to run away or to trust this boy. So it did not move at all. It could not move even an inch from there. He stroked its sides as gently as thought the fawn were a china deer and he might break it. Have you seen those stuffed toys, those deer on the roads? They seem to be, we see them selling. Now when you look at it from a distance, you feel they are truly alive but happily sitting by the roadside, but it is not the case. They are stuffed toys and they are a little bit, sometimes they are soft, sometimes you find the rough version of it also. So he thought that is what he is calling a china deer. Firstly he thought he is holding a china deer, but it was a live animal. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean. Now smooth and shiny. If you've seen any deer, you would see that it keeps itself very clean. You will never see it dirty. He rose slowly and lifted the fawn from the ground. Its legs hung limply. They were surprisingly long and he had to hoist the fawn as high as possible under his arm. Now, limply means he couldn't walk because the animal couldn't walk because it had not eaten anything. It was not fed. Mother was dead. Couldn't eat grass or something because it was not used to it. It was used to mama's milk, its mother's milk. So because he was left abandoned 24 hours, he has not eaten anything. So he's become weak. So he's limping. Almost legs don't have any energy. But when this boy lifts him up, he realizes that what he was seeing from a distance, he thought the height of the fawn was less. But as he lifted him up, the fawn, he saw that the legs are quite longer than he expected. So he had to lift it up to carry it. I will stop over here. In the next lecture, I'll give you the rest of the explanation. Now then it would become quite a long story to say. Fine. So read till here. The 2 comprehension check questions which have come, try to answer them. And in the next lecture, I'll be giving you the notes of this particular chapter. Thank you.